Welcome back to my latest video. This is going to be the start of a 10-part series. I'm going to review each Formula One team from the 2023 season. I'm going to review each driver and give my opinions on the team and their performance this season. I'm going to go from back to front, so I'm going to start with Haas today and then work all the way through until we get to Red Bull. So let's give a brief overview of this Haas's team season. They finished 10th in the World Drivers' Constructors' Championships, scoring only 12 points. They were only 4 points behind Alfa Romeo. Both Haas drivers only had 4 points finishers over the entire season. The Haas team collected 6 did not finishers over the season. It's just come to my attention, 63% of you are not subscribed. What are you doing? Click that red button right now. They averaged a race finish position of 15.7 and 13.64 for their average qualifying position. Now, let's talk about their team principal, Gunther Steiner. Although I think Gunther Steiner is good for the cameras, I think it's about time that Haas move him on. They haven't made the jump in performance which they were expecting to do into this new regulation set. They gave up an entire year of 2021 where they hired Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin as rookies, didn't develop the car with pure focus onto this new regulation set. Although this was a decision that Gunther, the development team, made, they have now finished 10th again. And although the grid is tighter this season than it was in 2021, Haas still aren't where they need to be. In my opinion, there's options out there like Otmar Safnauer, there's Matteo Binotto who's on the market. And for me, I think that Gene Haas should be looking to replace Gunther or even bring in some extra support for Gunther with someone else who's worked at a top team and can help develop through the grid. Now let's talk about the drivers. This season, they had Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen to fulfill their cars. Nico Hülkenberg had a total of 1 point finished this season, but that was good enough for 16th in the World Drivers' Championships. Nico finished with a total of 9 points. Nico finished with a total of 9 points with 2 DNFs to his name. He was unable to set any flying laps, which is to be expected with a Haas car in race trim. Nico Hülkenberg averaged a finish position of 14.55 and in qualifying he averaged a finish position of 12.14. Kevin Magnussen scored points on more occasions than Nico Hülkenberg, but he was only able to collect 3 points. That saw him finish 19th in the Drivers' Championship. Kevin had a total of 4 DNFs and 0 fastest laps, 1 more DNF than Nico Hülkenberg. His average finish position was 15.59 and his average qualifying position was 15.14, 3 places lower than Nico Hülkenberg's. Now, let's get on to talking about race head-to-heads, qualifying head-to-heads for these two drivers. In qualifying, both drivers put on a bit of a show. They were able to really extract the most out of that Haas car, which showed it had brilliant one-lap pace on occasions. I think it got into the top 10 around 10 times this season out of 22 races, which for me, I think is brilliant for Haas. But the struggles came in race trim on a Sunday. They burnt out their tyres. They were unable to maintain the pace of those teams that were able to get into Q3 or be on the fringes of Q3. And this obviously contributed to them finishing 10th in the Constructors' Championships. So if we look at race head-to-head, Nico Hülkenberg beat Kevin Magnussen 13-9. Nico Hülkenberg often showed tremendous race pace, but then his tyres would fall off, and that's when he would fall down the order, down the grid, because sometimes they'd have to make more stops or they'd have to really slow their pace down, which would impact them. And at many tracks where it's quite easy to overtake, it was a massive hindrance for Nico. Kevin Magnussen obviously had the same issues, and despite Haas bringing an upgrade around the Austin GP to try and aid tyre degradation and tyre reliability, it didn't really change. Nico Hulkenberg eventually then reverted back to the former spec of the Haas car, and that is something which Gunter Steiner and the development team, it's something they're going to have to look into, because they shouldn't be moving backwards from upgrades. Aston Martin did a similar thing, and Haas did it too. We have to call Nico Hulkenberg what he is, and that's a brilliant qualifier. He outqualified Kevin Magnussen 15-7. This is what contributed to the 3-place difference within the average qualifying. I think that Nico Hulkenberg is an incredible driver, especially over one lap. I think he deserves a much better car than the Haas are providing him. That is something which I hope that Gunter Steiner and the relevant parties will deal with heading into next season. I'm now going to talk about some pivotal moments within Haas's season. The most notable race I want to talk about is Australia. That is where they collected 50% of their points. That was round 3 of this season, and I'm sure that Gunter Steiner and the 2 drivers would have expected much more to come after that. Their points did come as a result of a crazy period of red flags, crashes from teams in front of them, but they were in the right place at the right time. The Haas drivers only scored points on 3 other occasions. That was in Saudi Arabia, Miami, and Singapore. Haas really struggled this season, and unfortunately for them, I don't know when it's going to get better. In my personal opinion, I think the setup is all wrong at Haas. I think a lot needs to change. They gave up an entire season in 2021 and they've not really got anything to show for it. Yes, last season they got a lucky pole position with Kevin Magnussen, but coming into 2023, I was expecting them to make a step forward, when in reality, they've gone further back. And for me, a lot needs to change at Haas. I don't know if drivers will make a difference, but I do think management-wise, funding-wise, is Gene Haas going to stay about? Is he going to want to keep funding a team that's finishing 10th? Yes, it's good marketing. There's an American team on the grid with all the American races these days. But is it worth his money? Could he put his money elsewhere and get the same return on investment? For me, it could be an opportunity for someone like Andretti or Hitech, who are rumoured to want to join the grid, to buy out Gene Haas and change something, turn it into something else and give it an opportunity to thrive, because I don't quite think they know what they're doing. Hopefully, over the winter, they do find some performance and they find out what was causing their tyre degradation problems. This way, they can hopefully find their way back up the grid, get more points finishers, and hopefully cause more of a problem for those teams ahead of them like Alfa Romeo, Williams, AlphaTauri, and get into that battle a little bit higher up the Constructors' Championships. I would rate Haas's season as a 3 out of 10. Although they had bright sparks and they did have some races where they showed some good performance, it just wasn't enough, and a lot needs to change, as I've previously said. Look out for my next part of this series, where I'm going to be discussing all things Alfa Romeo and how I thought about their season, what I would change, and looking at them heading into their change to Audi for 2026. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.